The rain came down in sheets that November evening, turning the mansion's circular driveway into a river of money and privilege. Through the window of his study, Julian Ashford watched the cleaning woman collapse to her knees on the wet pavement, her hands pressed to her face, shoulders shaking with sobs that even the storm couldn't drown out. He recognized her. Sophia, the quiet one who cleaned the East Wing. But what he didn't know was why his 12-year-old daughter Emma had been secretly meeting with her every Thursday for the past 6 months. Or why Sophia carried a faded photograph in her uniform pocket that would shatter everything Julian thought he knew about his perfect family. And, in exactly 7 minutes, Emma would walk through his study door and say 5 words that would destroy his entire world. Julian Ashford was 46 years old and controlled everything. His investment firm managed $3 billion in assets. His mansion sat on 12 acres of Connecticut countryside. His cars were German. His wine was French. His wife Lauren was beautiful, polished, and sat on 4 charity boards. His daughter Emma attended the finest private school. Everything in Julian's life had been carefully constructed, meticulously maintained, and ruthlessly protected. Sophia Martinez was 38 and controlled nothing. She cleaned homes for a living, 7 different houses across 6 days. Julian's mansion was her Thursday job. 4 hours. $75. She arrived at 3 in the afternoon and left by 7. She kept her eyes down, her voice quiet, and her life private. She'd worked for the Ashfords for 9 months. Julian had spoken to her maybe twice. But Emma had spoken to her every single week. Long conversations that Emma hid from her parents. Conversations that started accidentally when Emma came home sick from school one Thursday and found Sophia cleaning her bathroom. Conversations that became something Emma needed. Something that felt more real than anything in her carefully curated life. And Sophia had given Emma something, a small leather journal, old and worn, with a brass clasp. Emma kept it hidden under her mattress. Inside were secrets, truths, and a photograph that matched the ones Sophia carried. But Julian didn't know any of this. Not yet. He watched Sophia through the rain, feeling uncomfortable. She'd been out there for 3 minutes. Her car, an ancient Honda with a rusted bumper, sat running in the driveway. But she wasn't getting in. She was just kneeling in the rain, crying like something inside her had finally broken. Julian's instinct was to look away, to let her have her privacy, to maintain the boundary between employer and employee. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the violence of her grief. Maybe it was the nagging feeling that he'd been missing something. Maybe it was the way Emma had been acting lately. Distant, secretive, sad in a way he couldn't name. He put down his brandy and walked to the front door, opened it. The rain hit him immediately, cold and accusatory. "Sophia, are you all right?" She looked up, startled. Her face was a mess of tears and rain. "Mr. Ashford, I'm sorry. I'm leaving. I'm sorry. Are you hurt? Do you need help?" No, She struggled to her feet, wobbling. "I just received bad news. I should go. I'm sorry you had to see this." "What kind of bad news?" Sophia's face crumpled again. "My son. In El Salvador. He's sick. Very sick. The hospital, they say he needs surgery. For his heart. But I don't have the money. I've been saving, but it's not enough. It's never enough." Julian stood in the doorway, rain soaking his expensive shirt. "How much does the surgery cost?" $15,000. Sophia said it like she was confessing a crime. "I have 3,000 saved. I've been working extra houses, extra hours, but I'm out of time. They say if he doesn't have surgery in the next month, his heart will fail. He's only 10 years old, Mr. Ashford. Only 10. Julian did the math instantly. 15,000 was nothing to him. A rounding error. The cost of one of Lauren's handbags. But to Sophia, it was everything. It was life or death. Why don't you come inside? Dry off. We can talk about this. No. No, I cannot. I've already been unprofessional. I should not burden you with my problems. I will leave. Sophia, come inside. His voice had the tone of command that Julian used in boardrooms. Sophia obeyed out of instinct, followed him through the grand foyer, dripping water onto marble that cost more per square foot than her monthly rent. Julian led her to the kitchen, handed her a towel, watched her dry her face with shaking hands. Tell me about your son. His name is Matteo. He's 10. He has congenital heart defect. We didn't know until last year. In El Salvador, healthcare is difficult, expensive. I came here 3 years ago to work, to send money home. My mother takes care of him, but now the doctors say he cannot wait anymore. And I don't have enough. I've failed him. You haven't failed anyone. These things are expensive. I'm his mother. I should have saved more, worked more, done more. That's when Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying too. Dad, we need to talk. About Sophia. About everything. Julian turned to his daughter. Emma, this isn't the time. Yes, it is. Emma's voice shook, but she stood firm. You need to know the truth. The whole truth. And I'm tired of keeping secrets. Sophia stood suddenly. Emma, no. Please. We agreed. I know what we agreed. But I can't watch you suffer anymore. I can't watch Matteo die because we're all too scared to tell the truth. Julian looked between them, the cleaner and his daughter, connected by something he didn't understand. What truth? What are you talking about? Emma reached into her pocket, pulled out a photograph, handed it to Julian with trembling fingers. It was old, faded, creased from being folded and unfolded many times. It showed a young woman, maybe 19, holding a newborn baby. The woman was smiling, radiant, and she looked exactly like Sophia, but younger, happier. I don't understand. Is this you with your son? Emma shook her head. Look closer, Dad. Look at the back. Julian flipped the photograph. Written in faded ink was a date, May 7th, 24 years ago. And names, Sophia Martinez. Baby girl, Natalia. You had a daughter? Yes. Sophia's whisper was barely audible. I had a daughter. Where is she now? Emma's voice cut through. She's dead, Dad. She died 13 years ago, when she was 11, the same age I am now. Julian's chest tightened. I'm sorry for your loss, but that's not the whole truth. Emma was crying now. Tell him, Sophia. Tell him what happened to Natalia. Tell him how she died. Sophia shook her head violently. No. Emma. Please. This is not fair. Nothing about this is fair. But he deserves to know. We all deserve the truth. Julian's patience snapped. Someone tell me what the hell is going on. Emma took a breath. Natalia died in a car accident 13 years ago in Westport, Connecticut. She was 11 years old, and the driver who killed her never stopped. It was a hit and run. They never found who did it. The kitchen went silent except for the rain hammering against the windows. That's terrible, Julian said carefully. But I still don't understand what this has to do with us. Emma's next words came out in a rush. Mum was driving that day. Mum hit Natalia. And she drove away. She left a little girl dying on the road and she drove away. The world tilted. Julian grabbed the counter to steady himself. That's not possible. It is possible. It's true. Emma was sobbing now. I found the police report. I found newspaper articles. I found everything. Sophia's daughter, Natalia, was killed on Harbour Road on June 14th, 13 years ago, hit by a black Mercedes. The driver fled the scene. Mum drives a black Mercedes, Dad. She's driven one for 15 years. This is insane. Your mother would never. There was damage to her car that summer. Remember? She said she hit a deer. Had it repaired immediately. Paid cash so insurance wouldn't know. Lots of people hit deer. Emma pulled out her phone. Showed him something. I found the receipt. From the body shop. Dated June 16th, 2 days after Natalia died. The damage description says front bumper, headlight and hood. Consistent with striking a pedestrian. Julian's hands were shaking. Where did you get this? Mum's office. In her locked drawer. She kept everything, Dad. Every document. Every article about the accident. Like she was torturing herself. Or maybe making sure no one else ever found out. Sophia finally spoke. Her voice hollow. I didn't know. When I started working here, I didn't know. But then, I saw her. Your wife. And I remembered her face. From that day. I was there, Mr. Ashford. I was visiting my cousin in Connecticut. Natalia wanted to see America before I had to go back to El Salvador. We were walking to the park. And then a car came around the corner too fast. It hit my daughter, threw her 20 feet. And the driver, a woman with blonde hair in a black Mercedes, she stopped for just a second. Our eyes met. And then she drove away. She left my baby bleeding on the road. No. Julian's voice cracked. No, this can't be true. I've lived with that woman's face in my nightmares for 13 years. When I first came to clean this house, I didn't recognize her right away. 13 years is long time. People change. But then one day I saw an old photo on her desk. From before. And I knew. I knew it was her. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you go to the police and say what? That I, an undocumented immigrant, recognized the wife of a rich man? Who would believe me? I have no proof, only my memory. And my memory has been questioned by police before. They said I was traumatized, that I couldn't be a reliable witness, so I said nothing. I took the job because I needed money, because I'm sending everything I have to my son, because I'm trying to save one child since I couldn't save the other. Julian felt like he was drowning. This is impossible. Lauren wouldn't. She couldn't. But even as he said it, memories flooded back. That summer 13 years ago, Lauren had been different. Anxious, drinking more, having nightmares. She'd insisted on the car repair being done immediately, in cash at a shop 2 towns over. She'd been jumpy around police cars for months, and then slowly, carefully, she'd buried whatever was haunting her under layers of charity work and social climbing and perfect appearances. Emma crossed to Sophia, took her hand. I've been meeting with Sophia every Thursday for 6 months. She told me everything, showed me everything, and I've been investigating. Dad, I know you think I'm just a kid, but I'm not stupid. I've been researching, collecting evidence, and it all points to Mum. Julian sank into a chair. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Because I was scared. Because I didn't want to believe it either. Because I hoped I was wrong. But I'm not wrong, Dad. And now Sophia's son is dying. Matteo is dying. And Mum is walking around with blood on her hands, attending galas and fundraisers, pretending she's a good person. It makes me sick. The front door opened. Lauren's voice called out, bright and oblivious. Julian? Emma? I'm home. The gala committee meeting ran late, but we finalized everything for next month. She walked into the kitchen, still talking. You won't believe what Margaret suggested for the centerpieces. Absolutely absurd. I had to shut that down immediately. She stopped, took in the scene, her husband pale and shaking, her daughter crying, the cleaning woman standing in her kitchen holding a photograph. What's going on? Julian stood. His voice was ice. Tell me about June 14th, 13 years ago. Lauren's face went carefully blank. I don't know what you're talking about. The car accident. Harbor Road. The little girl you hit and left to die. The color drained from Lauren's face. Who told you that? Is it true? Julian, I don't know what lies you've been told, but is it true? The kitchen was silent. Lauren looked at Sophia. Recognition and fear flashed across her face. You're the mother. Yes. Sophia's voice was steady now. I'm Natalia's mother. And you killed my daughter. It was an accident. The words hung in the air. An admission. A confession. Julian felt something break inside him. You hit a child and drove away. I panicked. I was late for an appointment. I wasn't paying attention. She came out of nowhere. And when I realized what happened, I couldn't stop. I couldn't face it. So I drove home. Had the car fixed. And tried to forget. Emma's voice was full of venom. You tried to forget that you murdered someone's daughter. It was an accident, not murder. You left her dying in the street. That's murder. Lauren turned to Julian, desperate now. It's been 13 years. The statute of limitations. There's no statute of limitations on vehicular manslaughter in Connecticut, Julian said quietly. Especially when it involves a child. Especially when you fled the scene. You're not going to turn me in. Think about what this would do to our family, to our reputation, to Emma's future. Think about what you did to Natalia's future. Think about what you took from Sophia. It was 13 years ago. Nothing can change that. But if this comes out, everything we've built will be destroyed. Julian looked at his wife, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. Someone capable of hitting a child and driving away. Someone capable of living with that secret for 13 years. Someone capable of more cruelty than he'd ever imagined. How do you sleep at night? I don't. Not well. Not ever. Lauren's voice cracked. You think I haven't suffered? You think I don't see that little girl's face every time I close my eyes? I've been in hell for 13 years. You've been at galas. You've been at fundraisers. You've been living in luxury while Sophia cleaned your toilets and tried to save enough money to keep her other child alive. What do you want from me? Money? Fine. I'll pay for the surgery. I'll give Sophia whatever she needs. Just don't go to the police. Please. Sophia stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, but fierce. I don't want your blood money. I want justice. For Natalia. For me. For every person who's been hurt by rich people who think they can buy their way out of consequences. Julian made a decision. Tomorrow morning, we're going to the police. All of us. And you're going to confess everything. Lauren's face hardened. I won't. You can't make me. Then I'll tell them myself. I'll give them everything Emma found. every piece of evidence, every document, and I'll testify against you if I have to. You would destroy your own wife, the mother of your child? You destroyed yourself the moment you drove away from that little girl. I'm just making sure you face the consequences." Lauren looked around wildly, at Julian's cold face, at Emma's tears, at Sophia's quiet strength. She was trapped, and she knew it. "If I confess, I'll go to prison." "Yes." Julian's voice was final. "You will." Lauren sank into a chair, put her head in her hands, and for the first time in 13 years, started to cry for someone other than herself. That night, Julian couldn't sleep. He lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. His wife was a killer. His daughter had been carrying this terrible knowledge for months. And Sophia, the woman he'd barely noticed, had been cleaning his home while looking at the face of her daughter's murderer every week. How had he missed all of this? How had he been so blind? There was a soft knock on the door. Emma slipped in, still dressed, eyes red. "Can I stay here tonight? I don't want to be alone." "Of course." She climbed into bed beside him like she used to when she was small. They lay in silence for a while. "Dad, are you mad at me for not telling you sooner?" "No. You were scared. You were trying to process something impossible. I understand. I kept hoping I was wrong. Kept hoping there was another explanation. But there wasn't. I know, sweetheart. I know. What's going to happen to Mum? She'll be arrested. There'll be a trial. She'll probably go to prison. And us? We'll survive. We'll heal. And we'll make sure Sophia gets everything she needs for Matteo." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Sophia's been more of a mother to me these past 6 months than Mum has been in years." "What do you mean?" "Mum's always busy, always somewhere else, always worried about what people think. But Sophia, she actually listens. She asks me questions and cares about the answers. She tells me about her life, about Natalia, about Matteo. She's real, Dad. She's the realest person I know." Julian felt that uncomfortable twist again. The realization that his household staff knew his daughter better than he did. That money had bought them everything except connection. "I'm going to do better, Emma. I promise. You already are." The next morning, Julian called his attorney, explained the situation. The lawyer was horrified, but clear about the steps they needed to take. "This is going to be a media nightmare, Mr. Ashford. The press will destroy your family. My wife already did that. We're just dealing with the aftermath." At 10 a.m. they arrived at the police station. Julian, Lauren, Emma, and Sophia. Lauren was silent, her face hidden behind sunglasses. Sophia walked with her head high. The detective who took their statement was a woman in her 50s named Morrison. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, looked at Emma's evidence, looked at the old police report from Natalia's death, looked at Lauren's repair receipts. "Mrs. Ashford, I need to hear this from you directly. Did you strike and kill Natalia Martinez on June 14th, 13 years ago?" Lauren removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were hollow. "Yes, I did." "And you fled the scene?" "Yes." Detective Morrison nodded slowly. "Lauren Ashford, you're under arrest for vehicular manslaughter and leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death." The handcuffs clicked into place. Lauren didn't resist, just stood there, finally accepting the consequences she'd run from for 13 years. As they led her away, she looked at Julian. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He said nothing. There was nothing to say. Sophia watched her go, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of satisfaction, tears of grief. Because no amount of justice would bring Natalia back. No punishment would fill the hole in her heart. Emma took Sophia's hand, squeezed it, and Sophia squeezed back. The trial took 8 months. It was sensational. Rich socialite finally faces justice for deadly hit and run. The media camped outside the courthouse. Reporters shouted questions. The internet had opinions. But Julian stopped reading the coverage after the first week. Stopped caring what people thought. He focused on 3 things: Emma, Sophia, and making sure Matteo got the surgery he needed. Julian paid for Matteo's surgery himself. Flew Sophia to El Salvador to be with her son. Paid for the best cardiac surgeon available. Stayed in touch throughout the recovery. And when Matteo was strong enough, Julian helped Sophia navigate the immigration system to bring her son to the United States legally. It took months of paperwork and lawyer fees. But eventually, Matteo arrived. A skinny 10-year-old with his mother's eyes and a scar down his chest where the surgeons had saved his life. Emma was there at the airport when he arrived. She'd been learning Spanish, had been writing letters to Matteo throughout his recovery, and when he walked through the arrival gate, she ran to him like he was a brother she'd been waiting for. Julian watched them hug. Watched Sophia cry tears of joy for the first time in years, and felt something shift in his chest. This was what family looked like. Not blood, necessarily, but choice, connection, love. Lauren was sentenced to 12 years. With good behavior, she'd serve 8. Emma visited her once a month. Julian never did. Their divorce was finalized while she was in prison. Emma stayed with Julian. Chose her father over the mother who'd lied to her for her entire life. Sophia didn't continue cleaning houses. Julian hired her as the household manager for his estate. Gave her a real salary. Real benefits. A cottage on the property for her and Matteo. He didn't do it out of guilt. He did it because Sophia was family now. Had been family from the moment Emma chose her. Matteo and Emma became inseparable, brother and sister in all but blood. They went to the same school, helped each other with homework, fought over the remote control, did all the normal things that siblings do, and Julian learned to be present, to listen, to see the people in his life as people, not functions. He stepped back from the firm, spent more time at home, coached Matteo's soccer team, attended every one of Emma's school plays, had dinner with his family every night. One evening, 2 years after that rainy night in November, Julian found Sophia in the garden. She was planting flowers. Natalia's favorite. She'd told him once. White roses. "Do you think she would forgive me?" Sophia asked quietly. "For working for the woman who killed her. I think she would understand. You were surviving. Doing what you had to do for Matteo. I saw her face every time I saw Lauren. But I needed the money more than I needed revenge. That's not weakness. That's strength." Sophia sat back on her heels. "You know what the hardest part is? I'm happy now. Matteo is healthy. We're safe. We have a home. And I feel guilty for being happy when Natalia never got the chance. Julian sat down beside her in the grass, not caring about his expensive pants. She would want you to be happy. What kind of sister would Natalia want for Matteo? One with a bitter, broken mother? Or one with a mother who found peace? You think I've found peace? I think you're working toward it. That's all any of us can do. Sophia looked at the roses, then at the house where her son and Julian's daughter were probably arguing about what movie to watch. You changed, Mr. Ashford. Julian. Call me Julian. Julian, then. You changed. When I first met you, you barely looked at me. Now you sit in dirt with me and plant flowers. That's because you taught me to see. You and Emma both. You taught me that the most important things in life can't be bought. They can only be earned, through showing up, through caring, through being present. Your wife, she never learned that lesson. No. She didn't. And it cost her everything. Do you think she regrets it? Really regrets it? Julian thought about his monthly conversations with Lauren's lawyer, about the letters Lauren sent to Emma, that Emma sometimes read and sometimes burned, about the woman who'd once been his wife, now wearing prison grey and living with the consequences of one terrible choice that she'd compounded with 13 years of silence. I think she regrets getting caught. I'm not sure she regrets the actual choice. If she did, she would have confessed years ago. That's sad. Yes, it is. They planted the rest of the roses in comfortable silence, and when they finished, Sophia said something that surprised him. Thank you. For believing Emma. For believing me. For not protecting your wife because it was easier. There's nothing to thank me for. I did what anyone should do. But most people don't. Most people protect their own, their wealth, their reputation. You sacrificed all of that for truth. I sacrificed it for Emma. For you. For Natalia's memory. Those things matter more than money or reputation. Sophia smiled. Natalia would have liked you. This version of you. I wish I could have met her. Me too. Emma's graduation came on a bright June day. She was 18 now, heading to college in the fall, planning to study law with a focus on victims' rights. She wanted to help people like Sophia, people who'd been hurt by those with power and left without recourse. Julian sat in the audience with Sophia and Matteo, watched his daughter walk across the stage, watched her accept her diploma with a smile that reminded him of who she used to be, before she learned that her mother was capable of terrible things, before she learned that justice required sacrifice. Lauren was not there, hadn't been invited. Emma had made that choice clearly, and without regret. After the ceremony, they had dinner at Emma's favorite restaurant. Emma sat between Matteo and Julian, laughing at something Matteo said, her Spanish fluent now after years of practice. Julian looked around the table, at Sophia, who'd lost a daughter but saved a son, at Matteo, who'd survived against odds and was thriving now, at Emma, who'd chosen truth over comfort and was becoming an extraordinary young woman. This was his family, not the one he'd planned, not the one he'd imagined when he married Lauren and bought the mansion and built his perfect life, but a real one, built on truth and sacrifice and choice. You're quiet, Dad. Emma touched his hand. You okay? I'm perfect. Julian smiled. Absolutely perfect. That night, Julian did something he'd been planning for months. He gathered everyone in the living room, pulled out a folder of documents. I want to talk about the future, about what happens next. Emma looked nervous. Dad, if this is about me going to college, I told you I'm ready. It's not about that. I know you're ready. This is about something else. Julian turned to Sophia. I want to formally adopt Matteo, if you'll allow it. I want him to have my name, my legal protection, all the benefits that come with being my son. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. I've already had my lawyers draw up the papers. You'll still be his mother. Primary guardian. Nothing changes that. But legally, he'll be my son. Emma's brother, part of this family in every way. Sophia was crying. Julian, that's too much. It's not enough. Not for what you've given us. Not for teaching Emma about courage. Not for teaching me about what really matters. Julian looked at Matteo. If you want this, if you want to be officially part of this family, I'd be honored. Matteo looked at his mother. She nodded through tears. He turned to Julian. Does this mean Emma is really my sister? Legally? Yes. Then yes. I want that. Emma threw her arms around Matteo. Welcome to the family, little brother. Officially now. Matteo laughed. The adoption was finalized 3 months later. Matteo Martinez Ashford. It was a mouthful, but it was theirs. A name that represented everything they'd survived, everything they'd built. On the 5-year anniversary of that rainy November night, Julian stood in the garden beside Natalia's memorial. Sophia had designed it herself. A small stone bench surrounded by white roses, a plaque with Natalia's name and dates, and a quote Sophia had chosen. Gone but never forgotten. Forever 11. Forever loved. Julian placed flowers on the bench like he did every year, and like every year, he said a quiet prayer for the little girl he'd never met but who changed his entire life. Sophia found him there. She did this every year too, spent the anniversary in the garden, talking to her daughter. Do you think she knows? Sophia asked. What came from her death? How many lives changed? I think she knows. And I think she's proud of you. Of Matteo. Of all of us. I tell Matteo stories about her, want him to know his big sister. Want her to stay alive in our family. She is alive. In Emma's passion for justice. In Matteo's kindness. In the way we all try to be better. She's alive in all of that. Sophia leaned her head on Julian's shoulder. It had taken years for them to get to this place. This comfort. This friendship. They'd gone through therapy together, helping Emma and Matteo process the trauma of everything that happened. They'd built a life together, not romantic but familial, partners in raising 2 kids who needed them both. Julian, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you regret it? The divorce? The scandal? Everything you lost? Julian thought about his answer carefully. I lost a wife who was a stranger. I lost friends who cared more about appearances than character. I lost a reputation built on nothing real. But I gained Emma back. I gained you and Matteo. I gained the ability to sleep at night, knowing I chose right over easy. So no, I don't regret it. Not for a second, even though your business suffered, even though people still talk. Business recovered. People always talk. But Emma is happy. Matteo is healthy. You're at peace. Those are the only things that matter. When did you become so wise? when a cleaner crying in the rain taught me what I'd been missing. They sat together until the sun set, until the garden lights came on, until Emma called them inside for dinner. And as they walked back to the house, Julian thought about that night 5 years ago. The night everything changed. He'd stood at his window watching Sophia cry and thought she was beneath his notice, beneath his concern. Just the help. Just someone who existed to make his life easier. How wrong he'd been. How blind. Sophia had taught him to see. Emma had taught him to listen. Matteo had taught him to love without condition. And Natalia, the girl he'd never met, had taught him the most important lesson of all. That justice matters. That truth matters. That some things are worth sacrificing everything for. That the measure of a person isn't their wealth or their status, but what they do when no one is watching. What they choose when the choice is hard. Lauren had chosen silence, had chosen protection of self over justice for a child, and that choice had cost her everything that mattered. Julian had chosen truth, had chosen justice over comfort, had chosen family over reputation, and that choice had given him everything that mattered. As he entered the house, hearing Emma and Matteo arguing cheerfully about dinner plans, Sophia laughing at their antics, Julian sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. Thank you, Natalia, for bringing us together, for teaching us what love really means, for making us a family. And somewhere, he liked to think, an 11-year-old girl smiled. Her death had not been meaningless. Her loss had not been forgotten. She lived on in the choices they made, in the life they built, in the justice they'd fought for. She lived on in love. And that was everything.